Booga booga booga.
We're back. I got a villain to my right. Is that my right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We are back here on RHAP, House of Villains Season 2 coverage. More villainy than ever. I am, of course, Jenny, joined by my incredible co-host, the person that I could not do any of this without, Chappell. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Jenny, last time we talked about House of Villains, we were talking about like, is Jenny a villain? Because Chappell is definitely a villain. I kind of like the idea of you being like the angel on someone's shoulder and I'm like the devil on somebody's shoulder, but you're the angel with like, you still got the pitchfork behind your back, like.
It's funny, I had this Halloween costume like many years ago. I want to say it was like it was when I was in college, the early mid 2000s. I should not give dates. We literally just had a conversation about age, and here I am just doxing myself. But I just want to give like some context for like the time. Anyway, I had this roommate, and it was definitely the same kind of well, it was kind of the opposite vibe, where she was good, but I was a little bit bad. And we did like a paired costume where we were both angels, but hers was like a white, like she was wearing all white with like some light pink and stuff. And I was like, I had this very like Hot Topic-esque like black angel, like the dark angel that has like a little bit of a dark side, but like is still trying to like pull off the angel look. Like I had the wings, but I was like in fishnet and stuff.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Jenny.
You see it. That's me. I'm like, it's like what I was saying. I'm like, it's a little bit hero, it's a little bit villain. It just depends. But listen, what we will learn and have learned through our journey in House of Villains is that it's kind of up for interpretation. A lot of these people don't see themselves as villains. They're absolutely excellent TV characters in the very least. And so we win. We got a second season of House of Villains. Of course, we covered season 1 last fall, and we're back. And I'm feeling good so far. 1 episode in, how are you feeling, Chappell?
I feel great. I think that last fall, we had such a good time last time. We talked about House of Villains season 1. We got to go down each of these villains' dossiers and like really talk about their resumes, what made them villains. And then we got to deal with the cameos of seeing villains that weren't quite on the show, but they needed to include them in the show because we need our reality TV villains. We love them. And so back again to do this all over again with a newish group of villains. And, this same villainous energy here on WeKnowVillains.com, our new website.
Right.
Look at that.
We have a URL. Hello, WeKnowVillains.com. So if you're not subscribed already, go to that link right there and make sure you're subscribed, because that's where we're going to be bringing you the villains content all season long. If you haven't caught it already, we did a preview podcast where we just kind of did like a quick run through the cast with Rob Cesternino. And earlier today, to celebrate, the premiere tonight, we also had a lovely chat with Mr. Spectacular himself, Jesse Goddard. Chappell, Rob, and I got to talk to Jesse, and that was wild. So if you haven't checked that out, stick around, listen to our recap here, but make sure you check those out. And we're hoping we'll have more interviews along the way too.
Yes, it was so much fun talking to Jesse, and so good seeing him here on this season because he gave us a lot of the energy that we're going to get from Jesse moving forward. If you check out that interview, it is on our YouTube page. I'm pretty sure you can get to it from WeKnowVillains.com, but check out the RHAP YouTube page for that as well. And then get that energy from Jesse and then just translate all of that into what we're going to get for him throughout the season and for the rest of these villains too, because we got some heavy hitters. Season 2, you would think maybe you don't have the same strength as season 1, but I think they might have struck gold twice.
Yeah, so that like after the first season, I just felt like we had some representation that it was like, yes, okay, if you were going to cast a TV show under the, concept of House of Villains, you got some names that you're like, okay, this makes sense. Absolutely. I see it. And, I was hopeful, but I wasn't sure whether they could keep that energy or top it for season 2. And even though I'm not going into this super familiar with, the full breadth of some of these villains' work, I feel like after our first episode here, I'm feeling this is a very promising cast. Like, I think that I don't even feel like there was anyone that really faded into the background in this premiere. Do you?
No, I think these people know, they understand the assignment. They're villains because
Yeah.
they're known for what they do on the show. They know for these outrageous moments, the things that they say. And you can't be a villain if you're just hiding in the background, not getting any screen time. So we didn't see a lot of villainous moments from everybody, but we saw a lot of moments from everybody. Everybody made their presence known, and very excited to kind of get into the thick of it with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I love, again, this show has always kind of been a little self-referential. Joel is back,
Welcome back.
reminding me about how incredible he is as a host. I love him. I know we covered the GOAT a few months back, and that was a wonderful experience. And I felt like we were, kind of comparing Joel and
Daniel Tosh.
oh my god, yes, Tosh. And so this reminded me, I'm like, Joel is dry. Like, Joel is mocking you to your face, whereas like Tosh is kind of mocking himself. And I love them both, and they were both excellent hosts. But like, getting to see Joel in this bag again is incredible. So much prison reference. Like, they're
It
not
needed to
pulling
happen.
I know, it's perfect. I'm happy.
Yeah, the prison references are great because a lot of these villains this season have been to prison or jail or something. We get a montage of them being like, yeah, I've been arrested. Yeah, I've been to jail. There's a few of them where it's a big part of their story as villains too. So yeah, Daniel Tosh was one thing. He was for like the go. I feel like if you're to Tosh, I'm McHale. Like, it's the same thing. I'm very much a little bit more villainous outwardly, where Daniel Tosh is kind of hiding it, but he's still a villain. Make no mistake.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, we get OG Joel back, and man, I love Joel McHale. He's such a good host for this. Yeah, he really has like a gem with him, and especially because he knows how to talk to these reality TV stars, right? He knows what they want to hear. They're here for personalities. They're here known to be hated and loved for being hated, and so he's going to tell them to lean into it. Be their villainous self, and then we're going to see who's the best at being the worst at being bad at being good.
Which was like, I that was poetry to me, that like, watching everyone try to like follow that line, but it when you actually take it apart, it makes sense. He's like, who's the best at being the worst, at being bad. Wait, was it the best at being the
best
worst?
The best worst person who is good at being bad.
Bad, yes. See, I'm gonna get it tattooed on me at this point. Honestly, it's beautiful.
I'm gonna get it on my ass. It's good. Look, I just feel like that's the perfect spot for it. Across the cheeks.
We can get matching tattoos the next time we're in person together. Maybe that'll be a fun little.
Yours says the best, and mine just says the worst person. So you put it together.
It's like a friendship bracelet,
exactly.
But tattoos on our asses, which I think is so fitting. And speaking of asses, oh my god, what's the segue?
Who are you even segueing to at this point? That's the question.
Listen, I know they didn't enter first, and we don't need to go in chronological order because nothing we do here is ever properly in order. You have two ADHD squirrels here. Okay, what are you looking for? But they teased us with Richard Hatch. Someone would say an original survivor, a legend of reality TV. They made us think that this man was trying to walk into the house naked. He ultimately walks in clothed, but I thought we were about to see some cheeks.
Yeah. The cast we have today, I think a lot of them have been seen naked in different various forms in their previous media. Richard Hatch being the OG of that kind of archetype
Yes.
of like, hey, I got naked on TV.
He was
There are
getting
several
blurred
others
before
before
it was
blurring
cool.
was cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Safari grew up in a world where you don't even get blurred no more. You just charge people more to watch it, you know. And so getting Richard Hatch here, butt ass naked, and then putting on clothes, it was like, okay, we're setting the tone for what the season's going to be like, because you have to acknowledge these people's villainous past, and that was a big part of his.
Mhm.
And hey, having Richard Hatch here really does set the tone, because if you don't have, like, Hatch is the original villain. He is the OG, the first reality villain of his kind. He paved the way for a lot of these villains, and I think having Hatch here just adds a level of legitimacy to this villainous cast.
And again, I like, does Richard consider himself a villain? Because I'm not fully sure. It seems like he's okay with the moniker, but he also, you know, he in his first season he kind of created the strategy of his own game, and if nothing to compare it to, it can seem villainous, but I'm sure that many people could argue that it's not. However, he seems still dedicated to give good TV.
Mhm.
Do we have any standouts from, so obviously, like, we went through our cast the other day with Rob, but so a lot of the first part of this episode is like the limo entrances, and so we get a little bit of a preview of who some of these people are. Any standouts from like the introductions or the walking into the house for you personally?
To quote an amazing great woman, ding dong, the bitch is back. New York is back in the building, y'all.
Yeah.
What are we doing with it?
And they
Like,
saved the best for last, as
they
they should.
had to. They
You
had
have to.
to.
You're bringing a returnee, yeah.
Yes, and who better than New York to play House of Villains twice in a row? She talks
Exactly.
about how she got an early boot last season. I think it was like around episode 3 where she got eliminated, but she was one of the first eliminated from the show for sure. It just took a while for them to get there. I love New York having a second chance here. She is as well, like in that Hatch mold of like, once we got a New York, we got a different style of villain that people weren't used to, and they really paved the way for other villains as well. So New York coming in and also having a really good knowledge of a lot of the people in the cast. Like, she seemed like she was aware of these other people's
Yeah.
villainous aspects, and she got right to work being villainous. I mean, going upstairs and saying like, I feel like this was the room I was in last time. Let me shake the table a little bit and try to, like, cause some drama just behind which bed I want to sleep in. This is New York at her best.
Yes, and I love that for her, it's not just about game. Like, she will find opportunities to do villainous stuff, even if it has nothing to do with the game itself. And we see that, like you said, right out of the gate, where she's very particular about how she likes her things. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about it last season when she would sit in that bed. I said she's like charging up.
Charging
You know,
up, yeah.
it's like her charging station to like go pull some shit.
Mhm.
And that's an important space for her. It's sacred. So she figured out which room was, even though they've redecorated, she found which room she was, her and Corinne were last season, and she wants it, and she goes right to work in trying to figure out how she has to get that. And the other thing about New York is, it seems like she's dialed in to play the game this time. Whereas
Yes.
I think last season, no, it was the first time we were ever doing this. A lot of these people had never been on any sort of competition reality type show, had no idea what they were doing. Yes, I'm looking at you, Jax Taylor. And I looked at you again tonight. But and I think that she was someone where she's like, hey, I'm very experienced in TV. I know how to give good TV. But maybe just didn't really know what she needed to do for some longevity in the game as well. And what she gave us was brilliant while we had it, but like you said, it was not enough. It was very short-lived. This time, I feel like, based on some of the things she's saying, that she's thinking a little bit more about how to actually run the game, and not just give us legendary television. So I'm thrilled. Like, she has already exceeded my expectations coming into the season with one episode.
Great episode for New York for sure. I think one thing that I've always thought she was really good at in other shows as well is that New York can read the room. She might act like she cannot, but she
Yes.
definitely can read the room. So when she comes in and says, "Okay, there's a bed here and I want it," and she finds out that bed belongs to Camilla, in the past, we would have seen New York move someone's stuff. This is my bed now. I'm the HBIC. This is my room. This is my house. Blah 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 blah. This time she goes to Camilla, and I'm thinking she's gonna ask Camilla to move. She goes to her because she wants to room with what Teresa, right? Is that
Well,
what's
she
going
went to
on?
Teresa first
Yeah.
because she put her bag on Teresa. So what happened was I think she tried to she read Teresa first because she was trying to
Mm-hmm.
see if like Teresa was just going to offer it to her. And then
Mm-hmm.
Teresa goes, "Oh, you want a room with me?" And then New York is just like, "Exactly."
Exactly. Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so she's like,
It
"How do I do that?"
Yeah, and she goes to Camilla, and like I said, in the past, we probably would have seen New York maybe like bully somebody out of their room. But she goes to Camilla, and they talk, and
She's
Camilla's like,
grown.
yeah, Camilla's like, I'll let you have the room. You know, it's not worth the social standing to have a big fight with you day one, minute one, and also I think that's kind of what you want, New York. So I'll give you the room, like it's fine. And I think this is just a very savvy move from New York, as opposed to her old like kind of bull in a china shop thing that she's done, where she's just like, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. She comes in and she's playing somewhat of a social game to still get what she
Mhm.
wants. I don't know, man. This might have been New York's best episode of TV across 2 seasons of House of Villains.
Oh yeah. I mean, and she still was entertaining. Like she pulled the FU
She
lever in the
pulled the
shine.
lever.
And
Yeah.
I still feel like people are good with her. Again, like we need more time to kind of get the lay of the land with how people are feeling about each other. A lot of this first episode was introductory stuff. But I just feel like she's pulling villainous moves in the first episode, but still keeping herself in a good standing, it seems. Perhaps maybe just because she was safe and that's why her name doesn't come up. But I think, and I freaking called this Chappell. I
Mhm.
said I want her and Wes to work together. I see them as like this duo, and I got blindsided here because I didn't listen. I don't watch everything. They Wes and New York, they know each other.
They know each other. Yeah. Did they say which show it was that they were
It was
from?
Worst
That they
Cooks in America.
Yeah, apparently they've worked on that show
Like,
together. And
I
so
didn't know that either of them had been on that show.
no. And so this is an alliance that, we probably didn't see coming. I feel for Wes because he's saying some things that, for me as a person who knows New York's work very well, I know that this is a red flag. Anytime you
Yeah.
come in saying New York's a lion, I'm a lion too. Us two lions are going to work together. I'm like, no. See, you almost had it. New York is the lion. You
Yes.
are a lion. She
A
is the
lion is
lion.
the
She
lion.
will
Yes.
she will always identify the other lion and make sure that lion is nowhere near the end of the game with her. New York does not know how to play that like it's you and me game. She can
Mhm.
act like it for a little bit, but I'm concerned that West might give her a little too much of an end, and New York will flip like that if she needs to.
Yes, that's a very good point too. And as we see in this first episode, Wes cannot help himself but
Mm-mm.
be like on level 100 of gaming. And while I believe that Wes does want to work, like have New York and him be like the ride or die, like that's the big duo. I think that he is also just the kind of person that is going to have his hands in a lot of pots, or at least he's going to attempt to be putting his hands in a lot of pots. And I think that New York is the kind of person that if she gets wind of anything, even if Wes's intentions are good and he ultimately prioritizes her over anyone else, I feel like if she were to get wind of him trying to pull anything else, even if she's safe,
Yeah.
I think that she would be like, well, what happened? Like, and
Mm.
I could definitely see her, going off. So like Wes, you might be in danger, boo. It's
He might.
not yet, but I think like there's a lot of time that you need to keep things in check. And I just think Wes cannot help himself. He wants to be running everything. Even when he says he doesn't want to be out front showing that kind of side of him. I just feel like, don't you feel like in this episode, the vibe of how Wes was approaching everything compared to everyone else is just so different?
He's trying to lay low in his mind, right?
Yes.
But the moment you get him talking about game, he's like, all right, boom. So here's how it's gonna go. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we got these 2 pawns, and then we got this, blah, 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 blah. All right, make it happen. And he's telling us these are rookies. They're rookies and they don't know what they're doing, but I'm in control. I was like, Wes, I hear you. It's like Wes only knows how to be Wes. He's been Wes for so long. And so for him, it's going to be hard to lay low. But there are some other people in this game that have experience in the same realm that Wes does, including Richard Hatch, who we've already talked about, and our new friend, Mr. Spectacular, Jesse Goddard from Big Brother season 10 and 11, and subsequent seasons of Big Brother.
I feel like Mr. Spectacular in this first episode played the game that Wes wanted to play for his first round so far, because I actually feel like Jesse, there was a couple of interactions with people that like I was maybe a little worried for him, but ultimately I think that he flew fairly under the radar. This man was on the losing team and got picked to go on the reward with Safari. And he kind of just let Wes talk. I actually think that, and like he said, like he told us, he's a lot more strategic than people would think and give him credit for. And I think that he actually had the ability to step back and just let other people talk. Whereas I think Wes just couldn't help himself. I don't know if there was just something special about Safari where he's like, this is my guy and I'm going to just spit game with him, or if he's just he's shot out of a cannon. But I love Wes. I literally adore Wes. And I got a little nervous in this episode about how hard he was gaming.
Yeah, I love Wes, but I also love Safari. And I would love to say that, maybe Wes, I think Wes probably articulated himself pretty well when he says Safari's not a gamer in this way. You know what I'm saying? He might have that skill outside of the reality TV realm, but Love and Hip Hop is not a competition show. So I think Wes looked at Safari as, okay, this guy needs me to step up. And I'm also the perfect person who needs to step up because I want to be in that role, right? I don't want to be the person making the shot here, taking the shot at anybody. But if I can be the one in your ear making you take a shot and putting the target on you, I'm going to do it. And it's like Safari gave him the perfect opening to step in to Wes through this. Safari, who will end up being our super villain of the week. Jenny, is this your introduction to Safari completely?
This is my introduction to Safari. I am loving him so far. I am loving him so far. I'm sorry. Okay, so him and Richard Hatch are sharing a room. That is beautiful in the first place. And, when we're getting the introduction, some of these people recognize each other. Some of them don't. Safari has no idea who Richard Hatch is. He says, what's your name again, Rich? And then he's like, I'm going to call you old rich white guy.
And Hatch, being great at the social game, goes, okay. He's not like, my name is Richard. He's like, all right, whatever you say. He knows better than to push back against something like this, And so, Safari is in a competition show. I know somewhere Sasha is punching the air because she's a Love and Hip Hop historian. But Safari, he talks about being formally engaged or in a relationship with Nicki Minaj. And engaged. I forgot that they were engaged. But yeah. And it was a very public relationship. He's performed with her numerous times. I am envisioning some of the performances in my mind right now, and I'm laughing in my head. But Safari is dope as far as being a villain goes. I don't think a lot of his villainous traits. He's not afraid of a fight. I think that's one of the things that that might come out on this show is that if you get in Safari's face, he's not afraid to give it back to you a little bit. But a lot of his villainy comes from his interaction with the women in his life. And so I feel like based on his nominations this week, maybe he won't have to deal with any of that this season because if there's going to be any showmancing going on, I think he eliminated a couple of those options with his nominations.
Well, only one person can go, and if he's going to be in power, listen, we could end up with bananas and both
Corinne
Corinne and
and
Anfisa
Anfisa.
situation, because Anfisa couldn't stand Bananas last season,
No.
but Bananas had a lot of power, so she put up with it and kind of like gave her best attempt at like sort of flirting back with Bananas. And so you never know. Just because some of these ladies get nominated by Safari doesn't mean that the chance at romance is over. It's wild to me because when we did our little preview the other day, you said, most of his villainous actions are interactions, like romantic interactions with women. And I'm like, oh, like, this is a small cast. Is he going to have any showman's potential here? Like, that probably not even going to have any opportunity to get into that sort of mess. And based on the preview of what the season is, it seems like that is still possible. And this kind of got like brushed under the rug, but one of the other people, we talked about New York and Wes, Tiffany New York Pollard also has worked on a project. I guess that means a show with Safari as well. They are familiar to each other, and at least that one is not a secret because it gets acknowledged to the rest of the house. And Teresa is basically just straight up calls it like, have you guys hooked up? Like, have you touched tongues? And both New York and Safari kind of like dodge the question.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very interesting. What is your take on this?
Yeah, so they're from a show called Scared Famous, and it's crazy to me because I've seen a lot of reality TV shows.
Me, and Rob would cover.
It sounds like something you and Rob would cover
That's a
together.
Hit or Quit original.
Yeah. So they were on this show together at the time. Safari's now ex was on the show as well, I believe. And so I don't remember, and like I don't really remember watching this, but I remember I don't think anything happened between him and New York, but I like the implication that something could have.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that Safari's making a lot of money off of OnlyFans these days. So New York is probably familiar with his work. His work. Yeah. Yeah.
She knows the price of admission. And
Jenny, she will pull any lever that is hard and long and fit for her hands, is what she says. And so
especially if it's F you, she's like, F me, okay.
Yeah, look, that's New York. But the person who I was really fascinated with the interaction with Safari the most, Queen Victoria.
Oh
my girl God. Said, I tried to flirt, it didn't work.
She's got to play the game she knows, okay? And I understand and respect that.
And Fisa would have never admitted to trying to flirt. She'd be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. That's no, I was just standing here. You were flirting with me. And then the next episode, we would see her. Right. The next episode, we would see her flirting for sure. Oh, no. Queen Victoria said, I'm on the block. You suck. I hate you. And also, I tried to flirt. It didn't work. Here I am on the block. Queen Victoria, one episode in. What do you think?
Okay. Honestly, she kind of delivered.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. Like, I'm kind of rooting against her just by virtue of some of my other priorities. But like not for not enjoying her. It's more so just like I think it's kind of funny how she like tried to just like so obviously just like the most blatant attempt at trying to flirt her way off of the block by giving Safari her crown, saying, oh well, you are a king. And when Safari picks Wes and Jesse to go on the little reward that he wins, and she comes out and says, you're going on a group date, but you and I are going to have a one-on-one later. And I'm like, okay, like it's so obvious like what she's doing, and I actually am obsessed with the fact that it didn't work because that makes it even funnier to me. And what I appreciated most about her is that, like you said, she's able to like laugh at herself and own that she's like, yeah, it didn't work out. Like I actually tried to do this. I love a self-own.
Yeah, and it's only one episode in. She's not out of the game yet. So who knows if it's going to work? Like right now it's like she's on the block, but now that she's on the block, she might have to compete to get herself off the block. And that might look like, any type of social maneuvering, right? It might be flirting or something else, making some alliances. So I'm very interested to see Queen Victoria. I love when they ask her, like, so what do we call you? She said, oh, Vicky or Queen, either one works. And I was like, the audacity of this woman to come in and be like, call me queen, in a room with New York, Candi Muse, and like several other women who are calling themselves the queen as well. I mean, Larissa famously said the queen.
Saying, yeah,
Larissa has called herself the queen for years, and so I'm sure like they're all looking at Queen Victoria like, get in line and bring us some more of these tiaras, because we need a bunch of them.
Well, where they're doing the intros, you know, as they're all arriving to the house, and Victoria says, "Oh, they call me like, you can call me queen," and Teresa says, "Oh, I also get called the queen," and Victoria just goes, "Cool."
Yeah,
like she's
nice.
just like, "Oh, that's cool." Like,
but she knows Teresa, right? Victoria, one of the people who's like, I know her from the house. Yeah, she's like, I know her from the Housewives. So I love that. I felt like in the first season, there wasn't a lot of like overlap between the people who knew each other and knew of each other. Like it was very clear that Tanisha had like her finger on the pulse of everybody. Johnny Fairplay also kind of knew of everybody.
Yeah,
this
he's a reality TV guy, so he knew everyone.
Yeah. But this time, there's a lot of overlap, you know, where some people are fans, some people have worked together on projects. I'm like, all right, it's about to get a little dirty. I wonder who's the least connected person who might end up going home first.
And honestly, I think that is probably something to look for. I think that there are enough little threads, some have more than others, that I think that will play a part in whether some people, you know, have people vouching for them early or not. And you know, I don't think that that's the sole reason why some people could go early. Obviously, on a show this messy with this many messy people, there's a lot of things that people could be doing to make themselves a target besides just not being very well connected. But I wouldn't be surprised if being someone that is a little less connected to some other heavy hitters in the season is something where it's like you become kind of collateral, where it's like, you know, and then Wes goes through this whole plan of like, you put up pawns and a target, and then but the pawns have to be people that you're okay with losing if the target wins the redemption, whatever it's called. One of these days I will learn the names of all of these things. And so like we're seeing that come through. So it seems like, based on Safari's nominations for the hit list, that he is claiming Victoria to be the target here. That means nothing. We could very well see Victoria win her way off of the hit list. And also, if she remains on the hit list, that's not a guarantee that the rest of the house are going to want to get rid of her over whoever she's next to. So very interesting to see how some of the dynamics play out. One of the other connections that I did not foresee that I think is worth discussing here, Chappell, Camila and Richard Hatch possibly making a little alliance here. It was like a little bit of an awkward conversation, but Camila is one of us. She's a Survivor super fan.
I was shocked. I said, what? And I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, Rob, get her for the podcast. Like, you gotta have Camila right? on at some point. TV for real or something like that. Like, book her.
Yes.
I love this. I love this so much. I literally cannot wait to talk to like Scally about it, because I know he's a big Bad Girls Club fan. But she's identified that she knows Richard Hatch, and Richard Hatch is doing the Hatch thing to her. It's like you meet somebody and you can tell they're working you. She's like, wait, like, I'm a big Survivor fan. This is kind of surreal. Richard Hatch is talking to me, but he's talking strategy to her. He's like, all right, so you think me and you could work together? What are you thinking? Blah, blah. And if I was her, in my mind, I'd be like, this is crazy. You're right. Like, the inventor of the strategy that we know today is like talking to me of all the people. I'm like, am I being punked? Am I like, you know, is there something I should know? I'm hoping they work together for a long time. Camila impressed me in this episode as well. She could have easily went left on New York. The one little problem I have with Camila is that I feel like we already saw this storyline last year with Tanisha, where it's like, I was a bad girl, but now I'm a good girl,
mom.
right? Like, I'm a mom now, and so I don't do those things anymore. I'm kind of like, I kind of want you to do those things again. And there's no disrespect.
Do those things,
Right. It's no disrespect to her maturity level. I'm so happy if she's able to leave some of the Bad Girls Club behavior behind. You got to grow up some points, and you got, you know, family, people look up to you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But House of Villains, Tanisha was able to bring out the pots and pans a little bit. Like, it got a little contentious at points with Tanisha, but she had to be pushed to go there.
You needed Omarosa.
I kind of want Camila to be a little bit more trigger happy with going full Camila.
And honestly, it just might take a little bit of time and the right, like instigator, the right antagonist for her to kind of activate that part of her. Because she even said, like, with New York trying to basically push her out of the room, she was like, no, normally, like, I won't take any shit. And I still won't take any shit, but like, I'm going to play it cool right now and try to use this as to my advantage for the game. And we see that Camila kind of takes that opportunity to be like, hey, I'll let you have the room, girl. Like, but I want you to protect me. Like, don't. And, like, I think that that's a good thing to do. Be like, give the material thing that you don't need. It has you sleeping in a certain room is not going to really impact your success in the, well, maybe it will, I don't know, but your success in the game. But giving someone what they want and having them feel like they owe you something that you can turn to game is wonderful. So I was very impressed with Camila in this first episode. I love the idea of her and Richard Hatch pairing up, because I just feel like it's very, like, a very interesting duo. But I just didn't see a lot of the two of them integrated with the big, like, I don't know a lot about how those two have connections with other people beyond them. So I just worry, like, even though Richard Hatch is, like we said, a legend, like, one of the first big names of reality TV, one of the first winners of any reality TV, show, I don't know that he's super connected. And so I worry about what that could mean here, because there's like, things start kind of winding up around all these people with their other connections. Like, this is why I'm saying, like, this actually could be New York's season to run.
I would love to see New York do that, but it's going to be tough because New York, she can't help herself.
Yeah,
she can't help herself. Yeah, not to shift too much, but another person who can't help themselves found themselves on the block as well this week. Candi Muse, one episode in, she went for the jugular. I'm talking about. That's why Nicki Minaj left you. Blah blah. I mean, Candi was not happy. Safari does betray Candi Muse. They had a pact. We're gonna put up somebody from the other team after we lost it. After we won this jailbreak challenge. And they went back on the pact immediately. And so Candi Muse was like, all right, well, if anything's going to allow Victoria to slip through under the radar and maybe survive the block, it might be Candi Muse's outburst here, because she's very outwardly against Safari. Maybe that benefits people and say they want to keep her around so she can target him. But I do think that this was an explosive episode for Candi Muse.
Yes, it ends very explosively. And she did not hold back.
No.
Safari was in that pink coat, and she says, "You look like a prolapsed asshole waiting to be pushed back in that coat." I was like,
Jenny, we're back, baby.
We're back. I mean, that's how we know we're back, okay?
Right. What rank the insults? Prolapse asshole waiting to be pushed back in versus cum guzzling Republican.
What was the end of that? Oh my god!
I forget what
the cum guzzling Republican is the key part of it. Here's the thing.
I won't even say the whole thing. It was a. Can we say the whole thing?
This is We Know Villains, baby.
She called her a cock-sucking, cum-guzzling Republican. See you next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Yes. I think that See You Next Tuesday was the one part that was like bleeped out.
Everything else was fine.
Bleeped out. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what's allowed.
It was like bleep, bleep, guzzling, bleep, 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 bleep.
We're on E. It's a late night show, okay? So I think like all bets are off here, and that's why we're just reporting the things that are said, okay?
Yeah.
So listen, if we drop a See You Next Tuesday, that's because it was said. If there was a prolapsed asshole coat, that's not our fault. That's not our fault. Yeah. So Candi was pissed. She went the F off. And that's basically how that episode ended. So like now we need to go back to the conversation at the reward. They go to Jax's bar or whatever.
Welcome back,
And
Jax.
Jax is back, and he he sits down and tries to give advice to them. I don't really know in what place he had to give advice, but
here's what not to do, Jenny. He's
I
a
guess
living, walking testament of what not to do.
he did have self-awareness to say this is what not to do. But I'm like, you were on the show basically as long as the rest of them at this point, so it's like really, but while Wes is pushing the strategy of like, okay, what are we going to do about these nominations, and he lays out like there needs to be a pawn that we save, and we basically say to them like, we were told to save you, and so it kind of strengthens your relationship with that. Like that was what I assumed it was the point of what Wes was saying. And when he said that, Safari goes, okay, Candi. So what is our take on this? Safari, because Safari says that Victoria is the target, but he goes back on his word to his team by putting up both Larissa, right? And and Candi, who were both on his team, his winning team. And it seems that if we were to gauge the order of operations for Safari, Victoria is the target, and Candi is actually the person that he hopes is saved if Victoria is out of the equation. Is that your interpretation of it as well?
I mean, I guess so. Only one person can go. So I'm assuming they're hoping that either Candi or Larissa win the challenge, and then that makes Victoria one of the two people, and then they vote Victoria out, and then whoever else they try to bring in as like, okay, you were the pawn, you were never meant to go home, blah blah blah. I think in Big Brother terms, you would have gone to your pawn previous
ahead
to
of
putting them
time,
on the block and telling them like, hey, by the way, it'll never be you. But I think you kind of want a genuine reaction from Candi Muse as well, right? Like if you want this to be secret, you need Candi Muse to cuss you out. And
we want good TV here, and I appreciate that all of them are committed to being messy enough to cause these blowups.
Yeah, but Safari kind of calls Larissa a potential floater, and I was like, Safari, who you been talking to? Who taught you what a floater is? I was like, okay, that's probably from their Scared Famous show. He probably picked up a few tricks over there.
I loved Wes like pretending that he doesn't know like other shows, but he was like turning to Jesse being like, what do they call that on Big Brother?
Yeah, like what is that
a pawn? Oh, that's what they call it, a pawn. Like,
right.
Bro, I love that he was really trying to like play down what he knows.
Yeah, and so if Safari's being honest, then yeah, he doesn't want Larissa around, so maybe he's trying to pull in Candi, because he doesn't really make a point of saying why he would want Candi up, right? He's just like, I know we had a pact, but I'm gonna put you up anyway. And I think that might be the person that he's gonna go to after their big blow up, because they will have a conversation about this. There's no way Candi Muse is gonna let this go. Safari's gonna have to go and do a lot of damage control, and then if it's not able to work, and Candi Muse is still on the block next to Victoria, maybe he shifts and Candi Muse becomes the target. I guess we're gonna just have to wait and find out.
And that's the beauty of this show, because most of these people don't play really good social games for the betterment of the drama, because that reward trip to Jax's ends with Safari saying like, I feel like getting up to some villain shit and I'm gonna throw a curveball, which kind of freaks Wes out a little bit. And this is like, Safari's one of those people where, just because he's never done a show like this before, just because he's never done a competition reality show, doesn't mean that he's not going to quickly pick it up. And I have hope for him, being really, really good and not just being like a person that wins competitions, because the way he went through these hit list nominations, like he was doing he was doing like swerves, like.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So at this point, he's already put up Larissa, and says he doesn't want any floaters. He freaking dogs Victoria, pulling out a rose, saying,
Damn.
this rose is not for V, but the spot on the hit list is. Like, oh my god, incredible. So he's already trying to give her the swerve. And then when he ultimately makes Candi the third nomination, he says, I broke the pact, I'm sorry. And then he says, Wes, I apologize. It's Candi. So was that like a swerve to make us think, or make them think even, oh, I almost put up Wes? Or is this part of this whole scenario that they're building where there's some sort of storyline where I guess Wes was really trying to protect Candi, and like they're trying to build up this thing where it's like Candi is the pawn that we all say that we were definitely going to protect. So like, I'm sorry, Wes. I'm sorry for putting up Candi. Like I'm still trying to place together what Safari was doing there.
It almost feels like Wes's idea was to not put up Candi. It was like Candi will be the pawn or something like that. We won't put up Candi. And Safari's like, no, I kind of want Candi to go. You know, I think that
was that theater?
I don't think Safari has that in him. I don't think he has it in him yet. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe he does, but I don't know. To me, it felt like he was apologizing to Wes because he sincerely is like, I don't care if Candi goes on the block or not. And so, but we'll find out.
Candi he said like, when they had that conversation, he was like, okay, like there needs to be a pawn that we all rally around to save, and we say like, you know, we didn't want you to go home, like that's who we're saving. And that was when Safari said Candi. So I'm hoping that this will be explained in tomorrow's episode, because again, this is a 2-part premiere. And you know what? I don't hate how this show slow rolls the week's events. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind that we get more than one episode for a round of the show. So, you know, we don't have an elimination yet, and that's fine, because I wouldn't be ready to lose any of these people at the end of this first episode.
Oh my God, now that you mention it, like, I feel like what Joel McHale says is true. We come here for the personalities. This show is one of the few shows that's brave enough to say that the show doesn't matter, it's the people. And I'm like, bet, if that's what you tell me, cool. But then you got to show me the people, right? Like, I think we would be on a disadvantage if we got any of these people going home in the first episode, because they're here to be personalities, to be villainous. And when's a better time to be villainous than when you've been scorned or put on the block, or when you feel like your back is up against the wall, or you're in danger to go home? Give them time to cook. You know, for a lot of these villains, we're less familiar with them based on whatever show you watch, right? So like some people might say, oh, I've watched all these people's reality shows, and that's great. But for the most part, people have their niche, you know, like competition reality shows. They like the Love and Hip Hops and the Real Housewives type, like lifestyle reality shows, whether it's a cooking show, whatever. People fall into their little categories. But this is a good time to really pay homage to the other shows and to give these villains a chance to really show what they're made of and what makes them villains. So yeah, if you gotta drag this out a little bit longer, I'm totally okay with it, because I'm not okay with anybody going right now. Like,
no, I'm not either. Like,
of the 3 people on the block, I don't want anyone to go. You know, and I can't even say I would replace it with anybody else, because I really want to see what they do once they start to get the ball rolling a little bit more. We needed the first boot. We need somebody that we could get rid of really, really quickly, and I just don't know who that could have been.
And that's the thing, is like last season, I was fine with Jax being the first boot. He was messy. He brought it on himself, but he was also ultimately someone that I'm like, I don't need him here, you know? This season so far, which I think is a testament to how good the cast is, I don't feel like I could lose any of them yet, and be okay with it. So I don't know if in tomorrow's episode we'll even get to the elimination. I would think maybe in 2 episodes we do one elimination. So I guess we're gonna have to prepare ourselves, because something's gonna happen. But you know, if you're going to create a show under the premise of a character type villain, the show needs to properly showcase the characters, the people that have already made a name for themselves in what they've done already. And the structural stuff is there to make it, you know, a little bit more enticing. We love a competition. We want them to be fighting to win some money. Obviously, that's all great, but you know, the competitions and all of that are kind of just a structural thing to allow all of this to unfold. The main course is the people of themselves, and I appreciate that they don't take too much time with the competitions. And I don't know. I feel like do you feel like maybe we've only had one challenge so far, but I thought it was like a pretty good challenge. The team jailbreak challenge. It was like a multiple escape room type thing. Like, it was cool.
It required teamwork and then a level of trust that somebody wouldn't pull the FU lever. Obviously, people like New York are always going to pull the lever. That's just who they are.
Why the lever's there.
I feel like if you're a villain or you're coming to the house villain, you have to assume there's going to be a New York type. If it's not going to be you, like if you're sitting there, you're like, I'm not the type to grab the lever. You need to be expecting someone else to completely grab the lever. You know, someone is going to be self-interested or they would not be here. So I like that. I like that it was a jailbreak challenge because so many of these people that we talked about have backgrounds, the criminal records, and have been to jail or prison, depending on who it is. Like I said, Victoria has been arrested. Larissa has been arrested several times.
3 times or something, yeah.
Oh, and I think all 3 times were dealing with her relationship from 90 Day Fiance, like spousal abuse, assault.
It sounded like it was domestic, yeah.
He was calling the cops on that woman. He was like, "Hey, come get her." And so that was happening a lot. And then we even got a moment from Teresa where she's like, I don't really love the prison thing because the whole tax thing, and like I'm trying to separate myself from that. So we got a good challenge, but we got some character moments surrounding the challenge too. Teresa and Richard can relate to the tax problems, right? Like, because they both have been in jail due to something like that. And then, of course, Larissa has had her run-ins with the law too. What did you think about Larissa? This is your first glimpse into the life of our new 90 Day Fiance villain. What do you think?
Oh, she's very fun. She's very fun. She's not holding back. She's giving good confessionals. She's commenting on, like, she kind of sees through the BS with a lot of these people. Like, she's not trusting. So I personally enjoyed it. Man, they were blurring her like crazy.
Yes.
She came in with those cannons and like they could not be contained. Like,
no.
I don't know if I've seen that particular type of blurring where it's like the shirt isn't moving. It's just that like her body cannot be contained. Like, it's impossible.
Oh, between her and Jesse, Mr. Pentacular, I can't tell who's showing the most breast. Like, there's a lot of chest.
So much chest. I loved when they were getting ready for the hit list nomination, whatever that is called. And they had the shot of Larissa holding the banister of the stairs, going sideways, like very slowly down the stairs. And like, they made it look like the reason she was doing that was because she was in high heels. But my theory is she's very top heavy.
Yeah.
I think that she could fall forward down the stairs. And she needs to hold the railing to just keep herself afloat because I think that that's more of the issue. It's not so much the shoe. It's just that because she's got a very small frame otherwise. And I think that was possibly a hazard for her trying to walk down a big staircase. But yeah, I mean, she was pissed when she got nominated. So I'm hoping that all 3 of these people are very pissed off at Safari. And so I think that they're all going to bring the heat in the redemption challenge is what I believe it's called.
Yeah, they had the battle royale, which was the jailbreak, and then now they're gonna have the redemption challenge that will then lead them to the banishment ceremony in whatever this lair is. all the people on this cast, for the most part, are good for a good fight. I think Richard Hatch is probably least likely to just get into a shouting match with everybody, and that's saying a lot. Queen
And I
Victoria
think he
also,
still will. I think he will still
right,
get into it, but he's maybe not going to be shouting.
right. Queen Victoria is another one where I'm like, she would lay low, and that because she's very much like, I will bait you into, into like reacting to me. But like, we know Jesse can fight. We know Teresa can fight. Candi Muse is coming out the gate swinging in this episode.
Yeah.
There's going to be some really tense moments with these people, and I can't wait. This doesn't feel like it's extremely personal, even though the things that are being said are personal. It's like these are the characters that you brought in one spot. They have to do what they're known for. We see Jesse doing push-ups outside the door before he comes inside because his peck's got to be pecking the moment he comes to the door. So
I love that they call him just
themselves.
Peck. Have you noticed that they just call him Peck?
Can we call him Peck? Can we do that?
We're friends now. I think we can.
Yeah,
he likes friends. That, right? Like, I think that we're on that level now. So that's the thing is like, there's a certain level of like performance to this show because again, these people are on the show because of the characters they've built themselves to be. But obviously it all comes from a place that is sincere. So it's not like it's all staged or anything like that. But these people know how to activate the character version of themselves, especially in conflict. So it's great. I really feel like, I'm not seeing anyone on this cast that I think is going to just, completely stay out of it and just fade into the background. I'm really high hopes. I think that these are all messy enough people that I can see like different layers of conflict between some of these people. I think it gets fun and messy given the fact that some of them have some personal experience with each other. Like, I think we're in for a ride, and just based on our conversation with Peck today, it sounds like we are definitely in for a wild season. And I feel like this first episode, it's really gotten me excited.
Yes, and I'm glad you're excited because we get to do this again tomorrow. We have another episode of House of Villains season 2. The premiere is a 2-parter, and so we've done part 1. We might get an elimination in part 2. So everybody's got to just come back tomorrow to catch our next recap while we cover the first elimination, potentially, and then we'll be back every week, Jenny, to bring House of Villains coverage until the end of the season. I cannot wait. This is so much fun.
I know. I forgot how fun this is. Getting to watch this first episode, I'm really, really amped. I love doing this with you. And so the normal episodes going forward are, I believe, Thursday. So this is the unique 2-parter Wednesday, Thursday. We will be back tomorrow again with the episode 2 recap, and we will be back next week with episode 3 and so on and so forth. Make sure you are subscribed. We have a URL. Have you heard? Okay. WeKnowVillains.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the feed because we might have some more interviews down the line. I don't know if we're going to have exit interviews, but I think that there's a lot of people in this cast that I'm going to want to talk to at some point. So anything related to House of Villains season 2 will be in that feed. Make sure you're subscribed. And other than that, Chappell, you are the busiest man I know. What else do you have going on?
Yeah, catch me on recapkickback.com. That's my podcast where I talk about what I want to talk about. And I have an amazing co-host in Mari. If you know Mari from the Wrestling Wrap Up or from Crime Scene Podcast, she's joining me every week to talk about Black entertainment news and recap some of the movies and television shows that we've been watching. Recently, we talked about How to Die Alone, the entire season in 2 parts with our special guest, Matt Scott. And so Matt Scott came on. We talked about some of the current events, and we talked about How to Die Alone, which is a great show on Hulu. But you can catch that recap over on recapkickback.com, along with my coverage of The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is back The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, season 2, the Book of Carol is out. And we have weekly coverage over on Recap Kickback with the Zombie Kickback crew. That is me, Jessica Leese, AJ Mask, and Josh Wiggler. Check that out all on recapkickback.com and follow us on Twitter at Recap Kickback to keep up with all of those updates on all social media, honestly, to keep up with all those updates and more. And then check out the various other locations here on RHAP. The Survivor coverage on Club Condo, the Summit coverage with Taryn, and Nothing But Netflix with Rob. It's a great time. But make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Recap Kickback. What about you, Jenny?
Listen, this is the main course for me right now.
Love that. Yes.
But you know what? I am so appreciative to be able to put my full energy into House of Villains because I'm very, very excited. I feel very refreshed. I took the month of September off of podcasting, and now I feel like it gave me the energy I need to enjoy these villains. However, I was on the RHAP B&B to discuss episode 3 of Survivor that just happened. So catch that if you aren't caught up on Survivor, or if you haven't caught that podcast. Always a really good time talking to Mike and Liana. It got off the rails as it always does. But other than that, you will find me here every week with Chappell covering House of Villains season 2. I think it's gonna be a great season. I'm feeling very good about it. Make sure you're subscribed. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us so far. It's gonna be a good one. So we'll see you next week. Bye.
All right. Bye.